So we're going to talk about fish habitats and where these fish live in the lake. This is important if you want to actually catch some. You need to know where they're going to be. The pumpkinseed, the white bass, and the bluegill are the first three fish we're going to discuss here. They like warm, shallow waters near structures that are very weedy, like an old dock or some downed trees. The issue is that they're bony, and there's not a lot of meat on any of these three fish, so I try and avoid them because I don't want the little piece of nugget that I would get kill the fish for such a small amount of meat, so I kind of leave them alone. The location you'd think would also be nice for bass, like large and smallmouth bass. The issue is it's not deep enough and it's too warm. So bass like more around 3 to 5 meters, whereas these guys like about 1 to 1.5 meters of warm water with weeds. So the brown trout, which likes the cooler water and like streams, are a little bit tougher to find. I mean, if you're looking at Darling Long Lake with the river that's there, there's some brown trout in there, and the water's cold, and it's a good habitat for the brown trout, but you won't find any at White Lake. When it comes to the rock bass, this is another annoying little fish. They're usually around rocky structures in the middle of the lake, or in the edge, well, more in the middle of the lake. And if you see moss, and you see a rocky structure with moss under the water, you're going to find this rock bass, and you want to avoid them. They're bony again. There's not a lot of meat on them. The yellow perch is a good fish. It's not a fighter. They're not super fun to catch, but they do have some good meat on them, and they do make a good dinner. I've had, if you catch 3 or 4 of them, it makes a good dinner. The smallmouth bass and the largemouth bass, they usually hang around pretty close to each other. I've caught both roughly at the same spot. The rocky areas, you'll find the smallmouth bass, they like to be in crevices around the rock area, but the largemouth bass prefer like fallen trees, especially if you look at an edge of a lake and there's a whole bunch of fallen trees there. If you want some largemouth bass, that's where you go. But until the end of June, don't go bother them. They're spawning, and you want to avoid those areas during spawning season. The lake trout is another beautiful fish to catch. One is that what's funny about that is when you clean it, you gut it, but you actually leave the skin on. The skin is it's more of a skin than scales, and it's a very tasty fish. I'm hoping to head out to Darling Long Lake. I'm going to have to get some kind of a 4-wheeler, because it's a really tough area to get to, and I want to go catch some rainbow trout that supposedly is there also. The northern pike is usually in shallow waters, warm, weedy, but more open. You won't find them at the edge like you would find pumpkinseed. You'll find them more along sort of like a bay, a small shallow bay. The walleye is a tricky fish. They like about 3 to 5 meters, about 15 to 20 feet. They like the water to be cold. They hunt and eat at night in the evening. So it's sometimes it's a little tough to locate them, but 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night with dusk just starting, you'll catch some walleye. Now, what I've noticed is that out of my 30 years of experience is if I'm catching perch, bluegill, or pumpkinseed, I'm not catching anything else. There's no other fish around. They don't play well with the other fish. But what I did notice is that the bass are territorial and will have their area. The walleye won't go into that area. The perch will follow the walleye, and the pike will follow the perch. Why? The perch wants the pike wants to eat the perch. The perch need the protection of the walleye, and that's human nature. So if you want to know where the walleye is, and then you find the perch, you know the walleye are nearby. You just got to know which direction you're going in. I usually find that fish are lazy. They tend to go downstream most of the time. They'll only go upstream for spawning. So follow the downstream. Thank you.